Well, hello, everybody. Dr. Ron Oberstein, president of Life Chiropractic College West, and welcome to another edition of our Life West Leadership Line. Today, I have a very esteemed guest with us. And when you talk about leadership in chiropractic, this gentleman is probably one of the biggest leaders in our profession, been probably one of the oldest practitioners or longest practitioners in our profession. I have with us Dr. Roy Sweat from Atlanta, Georgia. And I just want to tell you a little bit about Dr. Sweat. I also have Dr. Scott Rosa, who I'm going to introduce in just a second. Dr. Sweat, originally from Georgia, started school at Palmer College of Chiropractic, graduated, went there when he was 21 years old. When he got out of the Navy, he'll tell us the story of how he got there. Graduated in 1949. He's been practicing 72 years, still checking people and adjusting when necessary, 6 days a week, 93. He'll be 94 on June 25th of this year of 2021. And he is an icon in our profession. I'm so honored to have you on our show with us today, Dr. Sweat. I really am, and I've been looking forward to this all week. And thank you for being with us. And I do want to introduce Dr. Scott Rosa, who is with you. He's the vice president of Atlas Orthogonal, which Dr. Sweat started. We're going to get into that too. And he's vice president of the Sweat Foundation and doing research and all kinds of things with Dr. Sweat and just amazing work that you've been doing, Dr. Sweat. So welcome to the Life West Leadership Line.
Okay, thanks for the kind words.
You're welcome. And they're well-deserved, let me tell you. Hey, share with us this. We're going to go through a lot of things. I mean, this show is usually a half hour. We could probably spend about 5 hours just to get to the surface, before going down underneath. But share with us, what was it like? I mean, you learned under B.J. Palmer. You started school in 1947, right?
Right. We would teach. BJ was adjusting on the side posture table on the Atlas transverse process, and that's the only adjustment we were ever taught.
Yeah, and BJ also talked about the upper cervical joint, right?
Right.
What?
And then he said every day in class he would come on the intercom and say that in the Atlas axis. Occiput Atlas axis area, there's no interosseous locks. And there are no interosseous locks. Below C3, all the vertebrae have an interosseous locks. And they're classified as symphysis. And they have interosseous locks and disc. And disc helps support the joint. The Occiput Atlas axis have no disc and no interosseous locks, and it has a synovial fluid to help it move. So it is a diarthroidal joint, and so the joint moves. We don't need horrendous forces. It's a matter of which direction and what way to move it.
Yeah, and that's the specificity, right? That being specific with what you do up in that upper cervical region, right? Because it does not take a lot of force. And for those of you listening, you're going to get anatomy lessons today, and you're going to learn just so much from Dr. Sweat. And Dr. Sweat, before we get into the meat, share with us how you became a chiropractor.
What was the question?
How you became a chiropractor.
Okay, my sister had migraine headaches. I was in the Navy for 2 years. I was discharged in 1946, and I've seen my sister in bed crying with migraine headaches. She was taking phenobarbital and all the drugs that wasn't working. So she went to the chiropractor, Dr. Winton Hall in Waycross, Georgia. He adjusted her Atlas and her migraine headaches cleared up. So I went with her, met him. He showed me the old spinal nerve chart. He said, "You ought to go be a chiropractor." I said, "Okay, I will." And we did.
Very easy. And then you went on to literally change the lives of thousands and thousands of people. I mean, we just did a rough estimate, Dr. Rosa and I, before the show. As a practitioner, you were seeing 1 to 3 new patients, a day, 6 days a week. And we took that, times it by by 24 days in a month, whatever, that you were working, then probably a little bit more than that. And then we took it by 12, we're chiropractors. So, we have to figure out the months into the weeks, or the weeks into the months, into the years. And we came up with a minimum of 43,200 people that you have taken under chiropractic care.
Okay, all right. Well, it sounds great to me.
Listen, honestly, Scott, it'd probably be about 50,000 or more.
Yeah.
Sure.
Sounds
sure.
great.
We know that, but so you taught under BJ, and then you did BJ's work for a year, correct? You did side posture, right?
Right.
No drop headpiece.
No drop head piece, and no knee chest programs.
Mm-hmm. And then after, because knee chest was before that, BJ had stopped, and then after that year, something spurred you to move forward and find another technique, right? So tell us about that. What how that progression took place.
Okay, we did the palmar adjustment, and we ran that adjustment on a transducer later on, and it came out 38 pounds, and that's 5 pounds right there. So I adjusted my sister, and she said the adjustment hurt her, and she never let me adjust her again. I told her, I said, the instrument here only got 6 pounds. She said, no, I don't want to be adjusted. So it was very discouraging for a while, and I even thought about getting out of chiropractic. And then I heard about Dr. John F. Grostik's program in Michigan, and we ran his adjustment on the transducer later on, and his adjustment came out 12 pounds. So Grostik moved us from 38 to 12, and now our instrument uses 6 pounds. So now we have come along with 3 generations of chiropractic into how to adjust the Atlas, and all of them are to lighter and lighter forces, and more of directional, which way is out of alignment and how to adjust it back.
Yeah. And I want our listeners to know something, because with Dr. Sweat, he's not just a chiropractor. He is a chiropractor. He's an inventor. He's revolutionized how to take care of the upper cervical area. But one of the things you did when you went up to see Dr. Grostik, right? You were one of his instructors, right?
Yeah, what happened, I went up in 1952 and began to study with him. And now in his advanced seminars, BJ told us to x-ray the patient before we adjusted them, but he never said when to re-x-ray. Grostik said x-ray them before you adjust them, but x-ray immediately afterwards. And it's like blueprints. You see which way it moved and what didn't move. And so in the mid-50s, after I started in 52, in the mid-50s, the x-rays we were sending up in his advanced classes was the #1 x-rays, and he asked me to help him teach his hand adjusting program, and we did until 1964 when he died.
Yeah. And then what transitioned after 1964?
Okay, what happened was the Grostik tables are only about 15 inches off the floor. So I had a couple of doctors that we had sent to school. One of them had a bad back and couldn't lean over that low. One of them had a bad wrist and couldn't bring his arms in. And so I said, I'm going to design an instrument that'll do the same thing as hand adjusting. And so we went down to Georgia Tech and hired engineers. And it took us about 4 years to draw the blueprints up and get an instrument printed. So our first instrument was 1970.
Wow.
So we made them ever since then. So we never had one recorded incident where anyone was hurt with the instrument.
Yeah, and if people were to know, if they have never had an Atlas orthogonal adjustment, the amount of pressure of that, the 6 pounds is what you've registered, right?
Yes.
I mean, you can barely even feel it, right?
Yeah, that's right. It is a very light force. The occiput atlas axis, again, is a diarthroidal, freely movable synovial joint. So it is light forces to move it. So it's not horrendous forces, it's what's direction. And so the adjustment, now we did have our first adjustment had what we call excursion, and the stylus would move forward. And then we found that when they moved forward, the head would rock towards your feet. When the head subluxates, it goes towards your feet. So when you're lying on your side and you push down on the atlas and the head goes towards the feet, you're taking it farther from vertical. So then I said, I got to have a force that'll go in, move the atlas, rocking the head towards your feet. And even Grostic said in his hand adjusting program, you had to adjust the patient like they had a glass of water on their head, and you had to adjust them without spilling that water. Yeah. So it was all to lighter and lighter forces.
Yeah.
And the base of the head, the base of the wrist, the pisiform area is about 1 inch by 2 inches. So a lot of that force is on the jaw and the ramus. And with our stylus, it's like a pencil. We go right in and we don't touch the jaw or the mastoid. And so it's lighter and lighter forces.
Yeah. Wow. And, and all the research, I mean, Dr. Rosa, you've been doing research since your days at Palmer, right? I mean, you were following Dr. Crowder around and doing all kinds of stuff. I mean, the things that you've seen, you've been doing AO now for how long?
Since 1990, 89, 90, I started.
Yeah. So we're talking about, 31 years, right? Something like that, 30 years, 31 years. You've probably seen amazing things, as far as, in the research that has been going on. Because Dr. Sweat has always talked about research, right?
Absolutely. He always said that there are always things that we always need to continue to move forward and trying to figure out better. Dr. Sweat took us from hand adjusting into the instrument. The instrument started out as an excursion instrument. And during his research and development, he realized that the lighter he went, the better the correction. So when it got to a point where he went to Georgia Tech University, as he stated, and asked them, how do I move a bone or how do I create a force without pushing against the skin or into the skin or deforming the skin? And that's when they said a percussion force. And that's when Dr. Sweat went from the original instrument from 1970 and 1980 is when he evolved into the Atlas Orthogonal percussion instrument.
Yeah, and
so it's created amazing things.
It's amazing.
Let me interrupt a minute and say Scott is our number one asset in our whole Atlas Orthogonal program, and we love him for it very much.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Sweat.
I mean, Scott, Dr. Sweat, I can second that for the profession, right? Not just with the Sweat Foundation and with AO, but just what he's doing, teaching in the profession right now and showing the amazing work that can be done just by, adjusting the atlas, the upper cervical joint is just incredible. Dr. Sweat, I have a question because, Dr. Rosa brought this up about the percussion and about the change of the instrument, right? And Dr. Rosa, you said that what year was that?
So to Dr. Sweat's point earlier, the first instrument that he created, he spent about 4 to 6 years in developing the first instrument. And the first instrument had an excursion stylus. It actually pushed into the skin and pulled out. So in his initial work of that instrument, he started to notice we rely on the post X-ray to decide how well the correction has gone. There's no guesswork. We show a subluxated spine before with various angles of disruption of normal vertical posture. And then we went ahead and Dr. Sweat would take a post X-ray, and he kept noticing the lighter that he went, the better the corrections. And it got to the point where he would take the excursion instrument, and on its end point of excursion, it would just essentially tap the skin. That's when he deferred to Georgia Tech University, to the engineering department, and asked them, how do I do what I want to do without an excursion instrument, but still move the bone? And if I'm correct, they said to him, a percussion instrument would be the way to go to. And that instrument Dr. Sweat created in 1980, and that's when we went to the percussion instrument.
Right. And Dr. Sweat, when you made this percussion instrument, when you worked with Georgia Tech around that, I mean, the percussion, now I've been adjusted with the percussion instrument. I have to tell you, I can't even remember feeling anything. It's so light that if you were to put a poundage on it, I'd probably put like a -1 or something. I don't know. I don't know if you can even do that. But I mean, and then I saw my post X-ray, and it was amazing, the change in my atlas, in my upper cervical joint. Just amazing. How did you come up with this? And with Georgia Tech?
Well, we say light is right. So lighter forces Again, it's a diarthroidal synovial joint. So it's what direction is it and not how much forces. And we find that it moves better with the lighter forces. So we have gone into a percussion now. We took our instrument down to the professor of physics at Georgia Tech, and he wrote up a letter for us, and he says it's a concussion. It is a
Percussion.
A percussion force, and it's a compressional energy wave. So that means you have to mash something. You have to have a compression. It's like a miniature atomic bomb. You got to have something hit and the atoms explode, and that moves the atlas. And so it came up with this problem was figuring out, and it took me about 10 years to figure out how to get the percussion force in there without rocking the head towards the feet. But it's a compressional energy wave. So that means something has to be smashed for the energy to go. So it is, again, like a miniature atomic bomb. And so it's a compressional wave that you create force. It's like the bomb can go off across the street and rock the windows in your building. So the forces can travel.
Yeah. And so you designed this, and you found, after you worked with Grostic, and then Dr. Grostic passed away, and then you were on your own basically, and you started to design an instrument, right? And then you kind of just not fell into it, but it was more by design than by default that you came into Atlas Orthogonal, right? And that is what you teach, and you've got I don't know how many, just, hundreds and thousands of practitioners around the world using this. What was it like, back in the day when, where you all of a sudden started this technique and no one even knew what it was about, right?
Well, one unique thing is I had one of my patients call me today from Switzerland, and his daughter is having some problems, and he wanted to wear it. No way he could take her to get an Atlas Orthogonal adjustment. And we got one in England and one in Germany. So that was unique even today. Yeah. So I enjoyed that. But at the same time, we need to figure out how to adjust the Atlas with lighter forces and how to stabilize the Atlas. So we do compare it. We say BJ got us to first base. He got us to the Atlas and axis. Grostic got us to second base with the vector adjusting. And now we say the instruments got us to third base. But we never said we're at home base yet. The next generation got to figure out a little more of how to get to home base.
Well, that's Dr. Rosa.
We're working on it.
Dr. Scott, you're going to be the one, man. You and your team are going to be the one that's going to have to get us to home base, man.
Absolutely. Let me say that I am blessed not only to be part of having Dr. Sweat as my mentor, but Dr. Matthew Sweat, Dr. Sweat's son, Dr. Dennis Fiorini, Dr. Angelo Colavita, and myself. We're kind of the team that's standing upon the shoulders of Dr. Sweat, recognizing that he keeps telling us it's up to the next generation to further figure things out. So we've got a very tall order, but there's four of us working together to try to get that home home base concept.
You're all swinging the bat, is what you're saying.
We all certainly are.
Yeah.
We're a team.
Yep. See, Dr. Sweat, it was like BJ swung at himself. Grostic swung at himself, you swung at yourself, and now from the shoulder of giants, it takes four people to swing this, and it just shows you the fortitude. And I really want to just let our viewers know that people like yourself and John Grostic and BJ and others who really laid the foundation, and it's just you didn't know that you were carrying this profession on that level. I remember when I was in school, I graduated from Life Chiropractic College, under Dr. Sid Williams in 1981. And back in 1981, Dr. Sid Williams was probably a patient of yours, but he was always talking about you, and always talking about,
one of our, Dr. Tom Umber one of my best friends, and as a matter of fact, Dr. Umber bought our first instrument, but he was adjusting Sid Williams, and he talked Sid into going to chiropractic school.
That's right. And Dee Dee Umber is his brother, and they both went to school together along with Dr. Nell. And, so when you start seeing, it always brings me back to that BJ saying that everybody knows. You never know how far reaching something you may say, think, or do today can affect the lives of millions tomorrow. If your sister's chiropractor, if you weren't on that visit with your sister that day, that chiropractor might not have ever said to you, well, why don't you think about going to chiropractic school? And you would said, okay. And then you went, right? I mean, it just takes that one thing or that one adjustment or that one communication or that one, whatever it is. And that's how we change the world, so we can never take it. Don't take for granted the small things, right? Because that's really where the gems lie, right? In that small piece, right? Just like that light adjustment. Doesn't need to be an atomic bomb. You can create the atomic bomb by doing just that light adjustment. And, you've really revolutionized what we're doing. And I just want to let you know that I'm thankful. And I want to let our viewers know this too. I know Dr. Rosa knows this, and yourself, Dr. Sweat. We are now bringing, Atlas Orthogonal to Life West so that our students can have this work and be able to understand it on a deeper level and see the science behind it and what it was based on. So I want to thank you for allowing us to do that and be able to share this message more and more.
Well, I do want to repeat that your students from Life West, when they come into our Atlas Orthogonal program, they're some of the smartest and most acute students that we have. Well,
I want to thank you for that. And, it isn't me, I'll tell you that. It's that we've always had that Life West was founded by two NUCA practitioners, upper cervical practitioners. We've always had that respect for the upper cervical joint, and they learn it and they learn about it. But I got to tell you, thank you for that. And I'm just thrilled that we're able to bring this, and have this move forward. As we're talking about, chiropractic and where we're going, I want to ask you, you're 72 years in the profession, right? You've seen a lot come and go. You've seen techniques come and go. You've seen laws, all the things that have taken place, the politics in chiropractic and outside of chiropractic. What's your vision? If we were to look back when you're at the pearly gates or wherever, you're sitting up with BJ and John Grostick, and I'm not saying this is tomorrow, Doc. You got at least another 20 years on the planet or however long you want.
Well, I hope so.
I hope you do too. For our sake, I hope you do, and for your sake and your family's sake. But, when that time comes and you're looking back and, and you're able to see, where chiropractic has gone and, in 25 to 50 years, what would make you smile? What would be your vision?
Well, it's a pretty simple vision. When I graduated in 1950, the president of the AMA, his program was the genocide chiropractic, and the Atlanta newspaper headlines were by him, and it was Morris Fishbein was his name. I'll never forget him. I might look him up there and find out what happened. But anyway, he just graduated in the front page of the Atlanta paper saying chiropractors are quacks and charlatans. And so they didn't genocide us then, and they ain't going to genocide us now, and all that's behind us. So now the history considers about 40 years of working generation. So we've got about 3 generations of doctors that has lived through this. As a matter of fact, we had a doctor in this morning for treatment, and he's a facial surgeon. And so now the third generation, they don't remember the fight and the old horrible situation between the medical doctors and chiropractic. And now they all are equal. And the medical doctors, in my opinion, are in earnest. They ask me, how can adjusting the Atlas help this? How can the Atlas help this? And so they are in earnest in the new generation. One of the patients said the medical doctor told her, said, don't go to a chiropractor. I said, go back and ask him if he belongs to the Flat Earth Society. That's how far back in the woods he is. And I told her, I said, he had to be about 60 or 70. She said, yeah, he's about 60. So the new generation don't have any of that animosity, and they all come in and they all want to have the Atlas adjusted. So at the same time, it's a whole new world out there, and our generation that lived through it. And so if the next generation can add to it, we're in the ball game.
Yeah. And so what I'm hearing you say is that, in 50 years, when you're looking back, from the gates up there without, sitting with John Grostic and BJ Palmer, Mabel and everyone else, it's like, we all got our place, right?
Right.
We all have our place. And if we just stay in our lane, I know that, right? If we just stay in our lane and we correct subluxations, we work with the nervous system, do what we do, and medicine is needed when it's needed, and not everything else. And, but everybody should be able to have that opportunity. But I do know this, and I think you do too. If they come to the chiropractor first, we can certainly take the burden off of everybody else, right? Right.
So we're going to say chiropractic first, side effect and drugs second, and irreversible surgery last.
Yeah.
So everybody should go to a chiropractic first and see if they can respond. And if they don't, we're happy to refer them to whatever type doctor they need to be. So our program is how to merge in with all the health professions. We aren't concentrating on how to get the patients to come in, but we're saying how we want to get all the health professions equal and chiropractic to be equal. And we're happy to refer any patient to any doctor that needs to go there. And that's where we almost are already.
Yeah, I love it. So we're gonna kind of wrap the show up, but I do want to ask you a final question, because I just want our viewers to just get a sneak peek into your brain, because you're still always thinking about how can we progress and how can we make things better and become more efficient, and you're never giving up. And that's what I love about you, Dr. Sweat. It's perfect is never going to be there. We can keep striving. Tell me if you've got a few new research inventions that are in your mind right now, or maybe even out starting to work. I don't know, but share with us, what there is that you want to start working on or are working on.
Okay, we're working on, we measure the patient's legs to see if they're in alignment or if the Atlas is in alignment or not. So now we're working on a digital X-ray program where we take the picture and the digital program reads out, and the doctor walks in and says, the secretary takes the picture, the doctor walk in and said, I see your right leg is short today, I see your left, or I see you at your level today. So we want to have a secretary or an assistant to the doctor to take the X-rays, to take the photographs of the leg measurements before and after each visit. Mm-hmm. Not just, we do it on the first patient, but we should do it on every visit and let the patient see that they were out of alignment that day and that they're back right.
So it'll be precise. I mean, it'll show a leg check and it will be precise. So there's no shadow of a doubt whether that person's leg is short or not short, right?
Right. So there's no question on that. And now the C1 and C dorsal and C1 and C2 dorsal nerves are the only two nerves that emit dorsally straight back. The C1 nerve comes up under the occiput and above the posterior arch of the atlas. C2 comes up underneath the posterior arch and above the lamina axis. Those two nerves are the only two nerves that emit dorsally straight back. After C2, all the nerves come out from the side. Now, that was part of BJ's problem with his NCM. He called it the NCM, he called it a neurocolometer. Neuro meant nerves and kilometer meant heat. but the lawyer asked me, and I was using it, and the lawyer asked me in court, he said, "You're reading nerve pressure." I said, "No, I'm reading skin temperature." And so at the same time, BJ did change that before he died, and he changed the name to a chirograph. Mm-hmm. And it is a graph by chiropractors. So he did correct that before he died. And so I used the chirograph. As a matter of fact, I donated mine to his museum down in Sarasota. Yeah. And so, but what we found was I could get that chirograph to read straight, and the leg would still be short. Some of the pressure would still be there. So we started preempting it, but we did donate it to his museum down there.
I love it.
But he did change that to a chirograph.
Yeah. Dr. Sweat, you're so inspiring. I mean, you've been at this game 72 years and you're still looking to see, how can I advance it? How can I advance it? How can we become more precise in what we do? And to me, that is not just a testament to chiropractic, it's a testament to the man that you are, and that to how you see chiropractic benefiting humanity, and that, it's never going to be good enough. We're going to constantly work to make it better and better and better. And I do know you're leaving a great legacy with Dr. Rosa, with your son, Dr. Matt Sweat, and, with Dr. Angelo and, Dr. Dennis. You are leaving. I know that you're leaving it in great hands. And I want to thank you for being with us today.
Well, let me thank you for the kind words.
Well, you're welcome. Yeah, if that's the least I could say, believe me, it's just really amazing. So thank you. I know that our viewers, you've got to watch this a few times because you're going to pick up more and more and more. It's just what's going to happen. And so please, spread this message. Let people know about the amazing things that Dr. Sweat is doing, and the amazing work, and whatever work you're doing as our viewers, just keep working at it. I think the lesson that I learned today is, whatever you're doing, keep working, keep refining, keep becoming the best you can possibly be. Because if Dr. Sweat's been at it for 72 years and he's not satisfied, then I don't think any of us should be satisfied either. So, Dr. Sweat, once again, thank you. Dr. Rosa, thank you so much for being with us and for help facilitating us to have Dr. Sweat with us today. Dr. Sweat, next year I'm bringing you back on. I'm bringing you back on every year that you're with us. So we got another at least 20 years to find out more of what's going on in AO and what you're advancing. And to our viewers, thank you again. Keep coming back to the Life West Leadership Line. We've got so many great people that come at us, like Dr. Sweat. Spread the news. Share this with your colleagues, with everybody, because they can certainly hear what's going on in chiropractic, from our history to our present and into our future. And keep making us proud that chiropractic is one of the greatest natural healing professions in the world.
Well, I do want to repeat that you're doing a great job at Life West. And again, the students that come into our AO program, they graduate from Life West, are some of our best students. So you're doing a great job, a beautiful job there.
Thank you, Dr. Sweat. And I think, listen to Dr. Sweat, we'll take all of your referrals. And if we can't take them, then we'll send them to other schools that will do the same. So thank you.
You're doing a beautiful job.
Thank you, Dr. Sweat. And thank you so much. And thank you, everybody. Until we come again at you with our next issue of Life West Leadership Line, we'll bid you adieu from myself, Dr. Roy Sweat, and Dr. Scott Rosa. And please remember to keep spreading chiropractic, live your life from above down, inside out, and never forget that the power that's within us to heal is far greater than most people have ever been led to believe. So share the message. Love you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thanks again.
You're welcome, Dr. Sweat.